Welcome back! My name is ballerscuba. This is Video Games Over Time. We are still in 1986. Today, we're going to talk about Nobunaga's ambition. The story of Nobunaga's ambition takes us back to Koei. We have talked about Koei before. They were responsible for the Romance of the Three Kingdoms game. Featuring music from Yoko Kanno, who also did the music for Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Nobunaga's Ambition is a strategy game. It is based on Oda Nobunaga, a real-life figure from the Sengoku period. Often seen as the great unifier of Japan, Nobunaga lived between 1534 and 1582 CE. Nobunaga's Ambition is technically a sequel to 1983's Nobunaga no Yabō, a strategy game released by Koei to Japanese computers. In Nobunaga's Ambition, the player chooses between one of four different scenarios taking place between 1560 and 1582 CE. In those scenarios, the player must properly allocate resources to raise a military, keep a productive economy, and support the peasants. The player will use these tactics to defeat their enemy in several different ways. The gameplay is deep, with several small options available to the player to achieve their larger goals. Koei released Nobunaga's Ambition to Japanese computers in October 1986. In Japan, the game would be known as Nobunaga no Yabō Zenkokuban. That is a brief backstory to Nobunaga's Ambition. With that told, it's time to look at the backstory presented in the game's manual, at least one version of it. It reads, "We supply the past. The last battle of Oda Nobunaga. High above the gates of Hanno Temple, a great white banner fluttered gently in the early morning breeze. There were no colorful symbols upon its face, only 5 words written in black ink. Rule the empire by force. These words were first spoken by the daimyo Oda Nobunaga many years ago. Then he was still only one lord among the many warlords who battled for supremacy during the bloodiest time in Japan's history. This period is called the Warring States period, and that is exactly what it was. A time when Japan was divided into many little states, each ruled by a daimyo, lord. These daimyos battled endlessly for control of the country. About this time, a young and ambitious daimyo named Oda Nobunaga seized the Oda clan from his brothers and took control of the province called Owari. From there, he launched attacks on nearby countries and quickly came to rule all of central Japan. He was the first daimyo to get this far in his quest for supremacy. Now, on the morning of June 2nd, 1582, his banner boldly announced his presence in the city of Kyoto. Yet, beneath his fearsome standard, Nobunaga slept restlessly. On top of the nearby Rono Hill, Field Marshal Akechi Mitsuhide gathered his troops around him. The first light of dawn cast a shadow across his face, masking his dark features. The men, armed with spears, swords, and rifles, whispered nervously while they waited for their leader to speak. You see, Mitsuhide had once been Nobunaga's greatest general, and had fought in many campaigns alongside his master. His love for his lord was so strong that once, in order to convince the enemy Hitano clan of Nobunaga's trustworthiness, he gave them his own mother as a hostage. This was a tragic mistake. Nobunaga betrayed the Hitanos and Mitsuhide's mother was put to death. Ever since, Mitsuhide was sullen and quiet in the presence of his lord. The men were ready for action. Rumors have been spreading for weeks of how they were to go into action in southwestern Japan. With north and central Japan already accounted for, victory in the southwest would spell final success for Nobunaga. Surely it was the excitement of such a thought that caused their leader, Mitsuhide, to savor this moment and draw out the silence. Then Mitsuhide spoke. "My men, I know how eager you must be for battle. For weeks you have listened to the battle reports from the southwestern front. I expect that you are ready to march this very morning, ready to die for your master. I too showed such loyalty to my master once, but no longer. From today I am your master, not Nobunaga. You will not march to battle in the southwest, because his enemy is not yours. Your enemy is my enemy." Mitsuhide paused, and pointed directly at the banner of Lord Oda. "And my enemy is the Hanno Temple." Oda Nobunaga woke to the sound of distant gunfire. He was immediately alert, and in a single practiced motion, leaped from his sleeping mat and drew his sword. With his back against the wall, he held his sword at the ready and listened. Just then Mori Ranmaru, Nobunaga's young page, burst into the room. Ranmaru bled from several small sword wounds, and his uniform was torn and soaked. His eyes were wide with terror. "My lord, we are besieged," he cried. "By how many? And how did they manage to get past Mitsuhide's guards? Answer me at once." Ranmaru was near tears as he answered. "The enemy numbers over 13,000, and they are none other than your own troops, led by Field Marshal Mitsuhide." "Mitsuhide? A traitor? Unbelievable." Nobunaga's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Then with great speed he donned his battle armor and stalked out of the room. The time. Nobunaga's ambition takes place during Japan's Civil War period, from 1467 to 1568. The wars began with the fall of Shogun Ashikaga Yoshimasa in 1467. Without the shogun, the government fell apart and daimyos fought amongst themselves for the right to be the new shogun of Japan. This continued for about 100 years. Then in the year 1568, Oda Nobunaga became powerful enough to choose a new shogun for Japan, and the Warring States period officially came to an end. The setting. The situation in Japan was similar to America during her Civil War, but instead of being divided into only North and South, Japan was divided into hundreds of feudal states. Each state, or fief, was ruled by a powerful lord called a daimyo. Every daimyo ruled his fief like a little country, and every daimyo believed that he was the most fit to be shogun. Without any central government, the daimyos began to fight among themselves, usually for no reason at all. Daimyos that were victorious became power-mad tyrants. Revolts and uprisings among peasants, soldiers, even monks became commonplace. Daimyos that were not victorious were killed. The country was thrown into violent confusion. The three great daimyos. Unifying the country in the face of so much chaos was too great a task for any one man. Japan was finally unified by three great daimyos: the great Oda Nobunaga, his successor Toyotomi Hideyoshi, and Tokugawa Ieyasu. The character of each of these three men is best summed up in a simple story told to Japanese children. Imagine these three men sitting in a simple room. At the center of the room is a small cuckoo that refuses to sing for them. When asked what they will do, Nobunaga quickly said, "I would kill the bird." Hideyoshi replied, "I would force the bird to sing." Ieyasu merely said, "I would wait until it wanted to sing." Oda Nobunaga, 1534 to 1582. Nobunaga was not the first daimyo to dream of ruling the country, but he was the first to make his dream a reality. By the time of his death, Nobunaga had managed to conquer all of central Japan. It was Nobunaga who started the final unification of Japan, and if he hadn't been killed by a treacherous general, he probably would have finished it. Nobunaga was an outstanding military commander. On many occasions, he defeated armies much larger than his own. Besides strategy, his cruelty was legendary. When a group of monks called the Iko sect rebelled against him, he burned down their temple. When they rose again, he massacred the priests and their families. This was Nobunaga's method for dominating Japan. His motto was, "Rule the empire by force." Toyotomi Hideyoshi, 1536 to 1598. When Nobunaga was killed by Akechi Mitsuhide, his ambition of unifying Japan was picked up by his general, Hashiba Hideyoshi. After destroying the villainous Akechi Mitsuhide, Hideyoshi continued to build on Nobunaga's domain. He won over all the southern islands of Kyushu and Shikoku, and outlasted his remaining enemies in the north. He became the greatest military power in Japan, and changed his name to Toyotomi Hideyoshi. But military strength was not enough. Although none of the other daimyos were powerful enough to challenge him, they did not call him master. Hideyoshi was really just a lowly farmer who had made good. His low birth made it impossible for him to become shogun, and when Hideyoshi died of old age in 1598, the country was leaderless again. Tokugawa Ieyasu, 1542 to 1616. When Nobunaga died, Ieyasu refused to accept Hideyoshi as his master. He knew, however, that war was not the answer, and decided to be patient and wait. When Hideyoshi passed away, Ieyasu seized his chance. After Hideyoshi's death, Japan was split into two opposing sides, the east under Tokugawa Ieyasu, and the west under Ishida Mitsunari. In the year 1600, the two armies met in the Battle of Sekigahara. Tokugawa Ieyasu emerged the victor, and after nearly 20 years of patient service under both Nobunaga and Hideyoshi, he became the supreme leader of Japan. The government he built was so stable that it lasted for almost 300 years. These 300 years of peace are called the Tokugawa period. Great daimyos of the Warring States period. The following men are Japanese heroes, famous for their power and intelligence. Reading these stories will help you understand what it took to be a great daimyo in the days of Nobunaga. 1. Oda Nobunaga, 1534 to 1562, of Owari. Nobunaga was a rebel from the start. He disobeyed his nurses and parents and was disliked by most people who know him. He soon gained a reputation for being an arrogant young man. But as he got older, he began to show the makings of a great daimyo. As soon as he came of age, he convinced the other daimyos to accept his leadership of the Oda clan. He then wiped out the rival Imagawa clan in an ambush to become the undisputed ruler of the province of Owari. Nobunaga realized that if he befriended the shogun, he could do as he pleased. So, in the year 1568, he marched into the capital city of Kyoto and declared Ashikaga Yoshiaki the new shogun. So great was Nobunaga's reputation that no one challenged him. However, their friendship was short-lived. Nobunaga rarely listened to the shogun's commands and always did as he pleased. Ashikaga was insulted and secretly formed an army to attack Nobunaga at the Onegawa River. But the hardy Nobunaga survived and took revenge by crushing the two clans which had been in the attack, the Asakura clan and the Asai clan. By this time, Nobunaga's rival, Takeda Shingen, had died of old age, and Nobunaga had allied with the monks of the powerful Iko sect. It began to look as if Nobunaga would be able to unify Japan. But while preparing for battle in the Chugoku region, Nobunaga was betrayed by one of his own generals. The villainous Akechi Mitsuhide attacked him in the Hanno temple with his own troops. Nobunaga died the glorious death of a Japanese warrior by committing harakiri at the age of 49 in the summer of 1582. 2. Tokugawa Ieyasu, 1542 to 1616, of Mikawa. Tokugawa Ieyasu was the founder of a 300-year period in Japanese history called the Tokugawa era. Strangely enough, this great leader spent his childhood as a hostage of the Imagawa clan. When he grew older and saw the Imagawa clan starting to lose power, he allied himself to Oda Nobunaga. Ieyasu was very wise and patient, and always knew who was actually in power. It was because of this ability to be in the right place at the right time that he became such a powerful man. After Nobunaga died, Ieyasu allied with Nobunaga's successor, Toyotomi Hideyoshi. When Hideyoshi died, Ieyasu went to war against the Toyotomi clan and defeated them, fulfilling Nobunaga's ambition of a united Japan. Ieyasu lived to be 75 years old, and is still well remembered in Japan for his cleverness and ruthlessness in negotiations. 3. Takeda Shingen, 1521 to 1583, of Kai and Shinano. In the 16th century, the name of Takeda Shingen struck such terror into the hearts of the other daimyos that he was given the nickname the Tiger of Kai. They say that the first time Tokugawa Ieyasu saw Takeda Shingen, he wet his kimono and ran for his life. Even when he was young, Shingen was ruthless. Under his leadership, the Takeda clan conquered every fief in the area. Shingen's reputation grew as quickly as his power. At Mitaka, Shingen battled against the combined armies of Tokugawa Ieyasu and Oda Nobunaga and easily defeated them. Yet, for all his power, Shingen could not overcome old age and died at the age of 53. 4. Uesuge Kenshin, 1530 to 1576, of Echigo and Kosuke. Kenshin's childhood may have seemed more suited for a priest's life than a daimyo's. He enjoyed his studies very much, especially Buddhism, one of the major religions of old Japan. However, beneath his apparent mildness lay a fierce fighting spirit. While trying to conquer the province of Echigo, he clashed head-on with the army of Takeda Shingen. He skillfully evaded Takeda's troops and fought the Tiger of Kai in one-on-one combat. Although Kenshin didn't lose to Shingen, he wasn't as lucky as Oda Nobunaga. Many of the warlords of Japan considered Kenshin's death to be the loss of a man and leader too good for the times. 5. Shimazu Takehisa, 1514 to 1571, of Satsuma and Osumi. Shimazu Takehisa dreamt of unifying Kyushu, the southernmost island of Japan. For years his father had struggled against all the lords of the province, and his last will was that his son finish the job of unification that he had begun. Every time Takehisa lost a battle and felt he couldn't go on, he would remember his father's last words and take courage from them. After much bloodshed, Takehisa eventually conquered the whole island of Kyushu. Unfortunately, Takehisa's success did not escape Toyotomi Hideyoshi's watchful eyes. Although Takehisa fought bravely, even the memory of his father couldn't prevent his defeat at the hands of Hideyoshi. 6. Date Teramune, 1543 to 1585, of Rikuzen. Date Teramune was a nobleman from birth. He came from one of the oldest and most respected families in Japan. Because of his background, Teramune was crowned the 16th lord of the Date clan by the shogun himself, Ashikaga Yoshiteru. However, even noblemen cannot escape their destiny, and Teramune's life was ill-fated from the start. No matter what he did, bad luck plagued him. He was given a strong young son named Masamune, but soon discovered that he was unstable. It is said that Masamune plucked out his eye when he was young because it was infected. Thus he was nicknamed the One-Eyed Dragon. Teramune's bad luck continued. He was captured by his arch-enemy, Hitakeyama Yoshitsugu, and taken prisoner. When his son heard the news, he stormed Hitakeyama's castle and, in a fit of rage, accidentally killed his own father as well as Hitakeyama. In the end, Teramune's noble birth was no match for destiny and bad luck. 7. Mori Motonari, 1497 to 1571, of Aki and Nagado. Mori Motonari was a brilliant man, maybe the greatest strategist of the 16th century. He was also very cruel, and while still a youth, he killed all of his brothers to make sure that he would inherit his father's lands. His father died, and Motonari quickly rose to power. When he went to battle, Motonari was very good at gathering information on the enemy daimyos and never letting others know how strong his own armies were. He would defeat his enemies by tricking them and making them look like fools, rather than by wasting his well-trained soldiers in battle. Motonari carried the guilt of murdering his brothers all his life. When he was dying, he called his 3 sons to his bedside. He asked a servant to bring him some arrows, and picking one up, easily snapped it in 2. He then asked each of his sons to try to break 3 arrows together, and none of them were able to. Motonari then explained to them that they were like the 3 arrows, and that if they worked together, they would be invincible. but if they didn't cooperate with each other, their enemies would snap them in two as easily as the single arrow. 8. Hojo Ujimasa, 1538 to 1590, of Musashi, Izu, Sagami, and Shimusa. During Nobunaga's time, not many daimyos lived long enough to see their sons inherit the throne. The Hojo family, however, ruled over the Kanto district of central Japan for more than 100 years. When Ujimasa took over as daimyo, the Hojo clan was very powerful. They ruled from the impregnable Odawara Castle. Unfortunately, Ujimasa was a very poor judge of men. At his best, he was an average leader, but at his worst, he could not tell the difference between a loyal servant and an enemy assassin. Ujimasa's total lack of good sense led the once powerful Hojo clan to failure. In 1575, after repeated official warnings, Odawara Castle was destroyed by the army of Toyotomi Hideyoshi. 9. Imagawa Yoshimoto, 1519 to 1560, of Totoumi and Suruga. Yoshimoto was born a member of the imperial family. He was trained in the ways of a nobleman and warrior, isolated from the real world within his parents' castle. Unfortunately, when his parents died, Yoshimoto wasn't ready to become the clan leader. While trying to make peace with an enemy clan, Yoshimoto took their young master hostage. Little did he know that this boy would later take the name of Tokugawa Ieyasu and go on to rule Japan. However, it was not Ieyasu who would bring about Yoshimoto's death. Yoshimoto made his last mistake by publicly insulting Oda Nobunaga, who took revenge by ambushing and killing Yoshimoto at the Battle of Okehazama. Epilogue. The once beautiful Hanno Temple, which had stood for years as a safe haven for weary travelers, was now only a blackened ruin. The great white flag hung in tatters from a broken pole. The grounds around the temple were filled with the bodies of fallen soldiers, and the air was thick with smoke and death. Yet within the temple, the sounds of fighting could still be heard. Nobunaga's wounded sword arm hung useless at his side. He leaned wearily against the back wall of a large guest room. At the door, 2 of his men battled valiantly to hold off a mob of fresh attackers. He could not see if anyone else from his personal guard was still alive. The hall outside was crowded with hundreds of Mitsuhide's rebel troops. Beside him, as ever, was Ranmaru. The page had picked up a spear and was prepared to move in if one of the last defenders should fall. Nobunaga was suddenly snapped out of his gloom by Mitsuhide's voice giving orders in the hall. "Swordsmen, fall back! Give the riflemen room to fire! We'll shoot our way in! There's no escape for him now!" Nobunaga lost all hope. Mitsuhide was no fool. He would not risk letting a man as dangerous as Nobunaga go free. Resigned to defeat, Nobunaga made a fateful decision. Opening the door to an adjacent tea room, Nobunaga motioned for Ranmaru to enter. He followed him inside, hoping his guards could last but 5 more minutes, and shut the door. "Ranmaru, I am the greatest daimyo in Japan, and will not die like a helpless dog. I will die with honor." Ranmaru understood immediately. In ancient Japan, an honorable death for a warrior was by his own hand, by ritual suicide. "Of course, my lord. It will be an honor to serve as your second." "Quickly, then, help me with my armor and take my sword. It is sharp, and the final blow must be clean." As Ranmaru brought the heavy sword down upon its victim, Nobunaga's last thoughts were of a poem he had written long ago called Atsumori. "A man's life is 50 years in the universe. What is there but dream and illusion? Is there any born who does not die?" Thus Nobunaga died, betrayed by an evil vassal. He fulfilled his own prophecy. A man's life is 50 years, and died at the age of 49. That is the backstory to Nobunaga's ambition as presented in the manual. With that read, it's time to play the game for ourselves, but that will have to wait for another video. That will do it for Nobunaga's ambition for now. My name is ballerscuba. This has been Video Games Over Time. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you in our next video when we play Nobunaga's Ambition.